Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. In this video, you'll learn how to do your own compression bandaging for your arm lymphedema. This is going to help with reducing swelling and any fibrosis or hardening of the tissues in your arm from that lymphedema. I'm Dr. Alex Hill, your physical therapist for everything oncology and lymphedema. I'm a board-certified oncologic and lymphedema therapist. Let's get wrapping. Compression bandaging is just one part of a comprehensive program called Complete Decongestive Therapy, or CDT, used to manage your lymphedema. CDT includes exercise, lymphatic massage, self-care including skin care to take care of your skin, and what we'll be doing today, compression wrapping. I'm including a link in the description below if you want to learn even more about how lymphedema is treated beyond just doing the compression wrapping, including what type of compression is recommended. Compression wrapping involves using multiple layers of materials including cotton, short stretch bandages, not ACE wraps, and other materials like foam to help with reducing the swelling. The wrapping technique that I'm showing in this video is for somebody experiencing mild to moderate lymphedema, and this is just one way to wrap the arm. If you have more advanced lymphedema, you'll likely need more aggressive compression foam than what I'm using in this video. Definitely talk with your lymphedema therapist first about what's best for you and the type of wrapping that's going to be best for you. Before we start wrapping, here are 5 important tips to remember about compression bandaging. Number 1, always work with a certified lymphedema therapist first to get a full assessment and personalized treatment plan together first. This video should really just be used as a resource to help guide you in doing the compression bandaging after you've already been diagnosed with lymphedema, you've had assessment, and you've worked with a lymphedema therapist. I am going to include some links in the description if you need help finding a lymphedema therapist near you. Number 2 is the compression bandaging should be snug, but it should not be painful. If you notice that your hands or your fingers are getting bluish, purplish, white, cool to the touch, tingling or numbness, that means that the wrapping is too tight and you need to redo it and do it a little bit looser. Number 3, always check your skin after you unwrap. If you notice any sores, wounds, open areas, leaking with fluid actually coming out of the skin, see your medical provider immediately. Number 4 is that compression bandaging is ideally worn 22 to 23 hours a day out of a 24-hour period. So you really should be only having the compression wrapping off for 1 to 2 hours a day. That 1 to 2 hours that you have a break, you're going to bathe and complete the manual lymphatic drainage or the lymphatic massage. I do have a video for how to do lymphatic massage for your arm, also linked in the description and above, so make sure that you're including that with your compression bandaging routine. It's important to have compression on as much as you can because as the arm gets smaller, we're continually rewrapping it until it gets down to its normal size or as close as we can get to it. And finally, number 5, compression bandaging works best to reduce the swelling when you're using it with exercise. So if you need an easy exercise routine to do for the arm, make sure that you click the link in the description below with an easy exercise routine that I have for managing and reducing arm lymphedema. The compression wrapping techniques that I'm showing in this video is for somebody experiencing mild to moderate lymphedema, and this is best for somebody who's newer to actually doing the compression wrapping on themselves. This is going to be a simple technique. I am going to be using either a light foam or cotton padding. Again, this is going to be for somebody with mild to moderate lymphedema. If you have more advanced lymphedema, talk with your lymphedema therapist about getting a thicker gray foam that you can utilize to better help reduce the swelling, any fibrosis, and skin changes. All right, let's talk about the supplies that you'll need. First up is scissors and tape. I really like the 3M transport tape. I feel like it sticks really well to the materials without ruining them. It's also easy to tear it off. But you can also use other types of medical tape like surgical tape that you can find at the store, or even masking tape works well too, just no duct tape. I would definitely recommend getting the strips of tape ready and having them on a table or countertop by you before you actually start wrapping so that you can just take that tape off and put it on the wrapping. You'll also need a plain white lotion like a Eucerin or store brand equivalent. Just make sure it's Plain white lotion, no perfumes or anything fancy in it. We want to make sure that we keep the skin moisturized and not more irritated, which can happen if you have it scented or perfume in it. You'll also need finger wraps, so you can either use Elastomol or Molelast. Ideally the 1-inch width, because this is going to be used to wrap around the fingers. Stockinette, this is going to be the base layer against the skin. You want to cut it so it's a little bit longer than your arm, above the shoulder and below the fingertips. If you have a larger arm, you may even want to cut it twice the length of your arm, because as you put it on and it stretches, you're going to lose a little bit of that length. So always better to cut extra, and then you can cut it down if it's too much, versus not cutting enough, you can't necessarily add it on. On top of the stockinette, you'll use either cotton, a 10 or 15 centimeter, depending on the size of your arm. And that's just going to be a nice soft cotton that we're going to wrap around the hand and up the arm. You can also use a foam like a Rosidol Soft. So this foam is going to help provide a little bit more compression to the arm, and it's also going to kind of help the compression stay up a little bit better. If you have lymphedema or you have sensitivity or more pain, I would recommend using the cotton versus using the foam. Regardless of whichever one you use, you're going to make a small hole at one end of it. That's going to be where your thumb goes through when we actually start to wrap. And last but not least, we have all of these short stretch bandages that are actually going to provide the compression for the arm. Again, these are not ACE wraps. These are special short stretch bandages. And for the arm, I would recommend using either a 4 or a 6 centimeter wrap for the hand in the bottom part of the forearm, and then a 6 or 8 centimeter for the forearm, and then the last piece is going to be either an 8 or a 10 centimeter going up the arm, depending how large your arm is. If you have a larger arm, then you'd likely need an 8 and a 10, and maybe even 2 10 centimeters to really get adequate compression. All right, so now you know why we're doing the wrapping. You've got your supplies ready. Let's start wrapping that arm. First, you always want to make sure that the skin is clean and dry. So bathe, use cleansing wipes or foam, and clean the entire arm and in between the fingers. Check for any areas of irritation or any open areas or cuts. Next, you're going to apply a generous amount of lotion all the way from the fingertips up to the armpit where you're going to be doing the wrapping. It's okay if all of that lotion doesn't get absorbed, because we're going to be having all of the wrapping on for, again, that 22 to 23 hours. So we want to make sure that the skin does stay moisturized and healthy as we're doing the compression wrapping. Next, you'll place the stockinette on, and you're going to pull it all the way up above the shoulder and make sure that it also covers the fingertips and goes just a little bit beyond them. At the knuckle of the thumb, you're going to pull that a little bit and cut a little hole that your thumb will go through. So we've got the hole, and that comes just like that. So next we're going to do the finger wrap. You can either start it over the stockinette, or you can fold the stockinette back and you can put it directly on the skin, whatever feels more comfortable for you. If you have the 1-inch, you can either leave it like that, or you can fold it in half and then re-roll it. I tend to find that that helps it a little bit better to stay on and to also get better coverage. So when you hold it, you're going to hold it like a snail. So you're going to start by having it around the wrist and then hold on to it with your index finger, and you're going to come around so that it anchors it. Then you're going to come up to the thumb. You're going to bring it around the thumb just below the thumbnail, and you're going to spiral about 50% overlap all the way down to the base of the thumb. Once you get to the bottom, you're going to basically create an X, come back around the wrist, and then come up to the index finger. You're coming just below the nail. And then you're going to, again, do that 50% overlap going all the way down to the base of the finger. And you'll notice that I'm keeping it pretty short. The longer it is, it makes it a little bit more challenging to actually control it. So we've got the index finger covered. And again, we've got that X at the front. You'll come around the wrist again. And then now we're going to do the middle finger. We're going to do the same thing. So we're going to come all the way down the finger till we get to the base, that 50% overlap. Once we have it covered, then we're going to spiral around. If you start to run out, you can go ahead, just clip that or just lightly bring it around like that. I tend to cut it, and then you can use a second roll to finish the last two. All right, so if you do need that second bandage for the fingers, we're going to start the same way by bringing it around the wrist once just to anchor it to keep it in place. And then we're going to go on to the ring finger, coming just below the fingernail. Make sure if you typically wear rings that you take your rings off, and then come down around again. If any of it gets a little bit loose, that's okay. We can tape it at the end. And last but not least, we've got the pinky. Same thing, coming just below the nail and spiraling 50% all the way down. Once we get to the bottom, we bring it all the way back around. And then with anything that's left over, you can go ahead and clip that. When you're done wrapping the fingers, you want to make sure that you haven't wrapped them too tight. So check to see if you have any pain, numbness, or tingling, and check the blood flow by doing this very simple test. You're going to press on the nail of your thumb so it turns a pale color, and then release it after a couple seconds, and you should see that the color returns within a couple seconds. If it doesn't, that means that you've wrapped too tight. Unfortunately, you need to unwrap everything and then redo it, but this is going to help make sure that you keep everything safe and you're not cutting off circulation. So next we're going to fold the stockinette back over if you put these finger wraps directly on the skin, and make sure that everything is smoothed out as you bring that stockinette up. And then again, you're either going to use the cotton batting like an Artiflex or Solona, or you're going to use a foam like a Rosidal Soft. You're still going to cut a hole in the middle of this for your thumb to go through, or you can rip one in the cotton. So for this video, I'm just going to use the cotton. So once you have the hole in the thumb, you're going to wrap around the hand. And again, you're holding it like a snail, so you can just roll it over the arm. And you're going to keep going and spiral with about 50% overlap as you go up the arm. Once you get to the elbow, what I like to do is fold it once, twice, so that you have some extra padding so that you don't get as irritated or any pain when you finish wrapping. And then you're just gonna keep spiraling all the way up the arm, that 50% overlap. And you can, as you see, kind of drop it down to catch it. And you wanna be coming all the way up to just below the armpit. If you have any extra, you can either just kind of bring it back down a little, or you can simply tear it off so you don't have anything extra. Once you've got the cotton on, now it's time to actually get the compression going with our short stretch bandages. And don't forget, if you have not gotten your tape ready, make sure you've got some strips of tape ready to go. That's gonna make it a lot easier as you do this. So take your smallest wrap. I'm using a 4 centimeter for my hand since it's a little bit smaller. If you have a larger hand, you can also use the 6 centimeter as well. You're going to hold it, you guessed it, like a snail. You're going to hold it and start above the wrist. So you're going to do that same wrap around once to anchor it. And then once you've anchored it, if you can see where my knuckles are, right? We see that there's that cotton there. You're going to bring the bandage between the thumb and the index finger, wrap around so it's at the knuckles and just below that cotton. You're going to wrap that around twice. So we've got once and then twice, and then you're going to bring it down below the thumb. Once you've come around the thumb, you're going to come back up on the side of the wrist, and then you're going to, again, go twice around the top part of the hand. So we've got 1, 2, and then you're going to bring it back down. And then what you're going to then do is wherever you see the white, you're going to start to spiral down with that 50% overlap. If you just noticed that started to fall, totally normal to drop these and they're gonna roll around the floor. So that's why I always like to do it over a countertop or a table. So you're gonna do that 50% overlap and start to come up the wrist. And as you're coming up, you're giving about 50% tension. So even though they're a little stretchy, you're not pulling it all the way. So you're gonna give that 50% tension. And then at the end, this is why it's handy to have the tape ready, you'll secure the end of it, okay? So if you fold that back, then you should be able to see still your knuckles right there, okay? So you don't want that bandaging coming up over onto the hand. So again, you wanna see that all of the white is covered. Again, after you wrap the hand, make sure that you're not having any pain, numbness, or tingling or discoloration of the fingers. Then you're going to take the next size up. So you're going to take your 8-centimeter wrap. You're going to hold it like a snail, and you're going to start above the wrist bone. So basically where the last one ended. So you're going to start at the bottom, and if you can, try to angle it up versus down, because if you angle it up, that's going to help make sure that the ends of it are staying covered. So we've got that first layer, so we've secured it, and then we're gonna do that 50% tension and spiral 50% coverage up the arm. I'm gonna turn here so you can see a little bit better. Once you get to the elbow, what you're going to do is make an X at it. So you're going to come up at a diagonal, and you're going to come all the way around the upper part of the arm, and that's going to act like an anchor. So you're going to bring it around and then come back down over the elbow. So this is my elbow crease at that X. That's going to help make sure that you don't have too much irritation. So come back down, and then you're going to keep spiraling all the way up with that 50% overlap until you get to the top. And then once you get to the top, again, we've got our tape ready to go, and you're gonna just put a little piece at the end. If you have a hard time with doing the X, it's okay just to spiral that 50% overlap all the way up. I would just make sure that you have the middle of the bandage in the middle of the crease so you don't have the ends in them. So finally, after we did the 8-centimeter, then you're gonna take your 10-centimeter, and we're gonna do the same thing. So we're gonna start all the way down at the bottom, and we're going to secure it. So we've got the anchor part here, and then you're gonna do that 50% overlap and just spiral up. If you have extra like I do here, then that's okay. All you're going to do is just very lightly, told you it would fall, very lightly put the rest of it around the arm. So you see there's no tension with that. We don't want to keep adding tension to the top. So we're just lightly bringing it around. And then we've got our last piece of tape here. And on the last wrap, I like to add a couple extra pieces of tape to really make sure that that stays secure. And then the final part is going to be pulling the stockinette back. And I find that this is really helpful. You can put a little piece of tape at the palm and at the top of the hand to keep the stockinette down. But that's also going to help with protecting the compression wrapping supplies a little bit more. And then at the top of the arm, you're going to fold that stockinette down and make sure that it's about 1 to 2 finger width below the armpit. So if it's too high, that can start to irritate the arm. You see how high that is? That's about how high you want it. If you have swelling that comes up into the shoulder as well, then you may need to come up a little bit higher and angle it. But otherwise it should still be about 1 to 2 finger widths. Once you're done wrapping, again, you're going to do the fingernail checks. You're going to squeeze the nail, let it go, and you should see that that color returns within a couple seconds. If not, or if you have numbness, tingling, or pain, you just need to maybe redo that last one if it's just too tight. And then make sure that every wrap that you do is about the same width all the way up, and that it's all horizontal. You don't want it crisscross and doing different shapes. That's gonna help make sure that you get nice, even compression all the way up the arm. So remember, this was just a very simple, basic technique to help start to get the swelling down in your arm. You may need more aggressive techniques or using different types of foam if you have more aggressive lymphedema. So again, make sure that you work with a lymphedema therapist so you know the best treatment strategy for you and your swelling. Another tip is that as the arm gets smaller, these bandages will get looser. So again, it's not an ace wrap. It's not going to get smaller as you get smaller. It's going to get a little bit looser. That's a good thing. You may find if you have a lot of swelling and you reduce quickly, that you might even need to rewrap twice in a day versus just once. That's okay. Again, the more that we wrap it as it gets smaller, the quicker that that arm gets back down to normal or near normal size. Make sure that you are washing the stockinette after each use. Remember, that's the bottom layer. And I recommend using new finger wraps each time because they do tend to get dirty. And remember, with lymphedema, we want to avoid infections. So keeping your materials as clean as possible is key. The brown short stretch bandages can be washed either by hand washing or put them in a delicates bag in the wash and then let them air dry. And then finally, you want to make sure that you exercise with the compression wrapping on to help further reduce that lymphedema. If you need an exercise video or exercise routine for the arm lymphedema, I'm linking it down below and here, so make sure that you follow that exercise routine. Super simple exercises to get that swelling down. I hope you found this video helpful. Please like this video and make sure to subscribe to my channel to make sure you don't miss any new videos on how to manage your arm lymphedema.